Hello, class. Welcome to Envisions Math. Today we're going to be working on Envisions Lesson 9-2. You are going to be estimating the sums and differences of fractions. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, you know sums means the answer to an addition problem, and differences means the answer to subtraction problems. So you're going to be adding and subtracting fractions. But hold on. Not only that, though, you are estimating them, okay, to try to think about the fraction in relative to a whole or to a half or to zero. How close is the fraction to zero? How close is the fraction to 1/2? How close is the fraction to zero? Okay, and I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. All right, I'm going to go over two examples of what you're going to be working on today, and hopefully this will help you out. All right, so the top part of my whiteboard, all right, you will have some questions that have a number line here. And this number line goes from 0 to 1. And you might think in the past, oh my goodness, that's probably the shortest number line I've ever seen. But now this number line is showing fractional parts, okay? And in this case, the fractional parts from 0 to 1, there are 8 spaces, which means the whole is broken up into 8 equal parts, all right? Now, in the problems that you're working on today, you're going to get a fraction, and it's going to ask you what two numbers, what two quantities is this fraction in between, and then which one is it closer to? That way, it's getting you to think about how you can estimate this fraction, okay? So here I gave you an example. We have 5/8, okay? Now remember, I said this number line 0 to 1 is broken up into 8 equal parts, and since we have a denominator of 8, which means all the parts to the whole, now we have our numerator, right? The parts that we have, we're looking for 5/8. Where on the number line is 5/8? Well, half of a whole, or half of 8, is 4. Okay, so right away, we know that this here is 4/8. All right, but you can always count it just to be sure, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so right here is our 5/8. I'm going to mark that really briefly here. It's going to be a little messy and a little smudgy. I'm thinking I need to get a bigger whiteboard in this classroom that I have. So anyway, there's 5/8 right there at that mark. Now, is 5/8, what is 5/8 in between? What two quantities? As you can see, it is between 1 and a half, right? 1 and 1/2, all right? It's in between. It's not in between 0 and 1/2, it's in between 1/2 and 1. Now, besides us knowing now what it's in between, what is it closer to? Is it closer to a whole or is it closer to a half? Yes, in this instant, it's closer to 1/2. So if I was going to estimate the fraction 5/8 is close to, well, the fraction 5/8 is close to 1/2. How do I know that? Well, if you know that 4/8 is exactly 1/2, then that helps you as well. But this number line is also supposed to help you with that. Okay. Now, once you start getting in your head, is this fraction closer to 0, to 1/2, or to 1, a whole, then you can work on the estimating the sums and the differences. Okay, why is that? Because you can take the fractions that you're adding or subtracting, estimate them first, and then add or subtract. And it's pretty simple once you've estimated the fractions, what they are, because then the problem becomes much simpler. It could be something like 1 minus a half, or 1 minus 0, or half minus 0, or 1 plus 1. So I'm sure you can solve those problems. Later on, though, thankfully, we will get to adding and subtracting fractions without estimating. Okay, so here I have two examples. Remember, we're keeping in mind, is it close to 0? Is it close to 1/2? Or is it close to 1? All right, here we have 3/5 and 2/4. All right, 3/5. Well, half of 5 technically is 2.5. All right, or 2.5. So 3 is more than 2.5. So I know that 3/5 is closer to 1 whole. So I'm going to estimate that as 1. Honestly, it's a little off, but it's the best estimate if I only have the options of 1, 1/2, and 0. So now I have 2/4. Well, 2/4, 2 is right in the middle of 0 and 4, correct? So 2/4 is exactly 1/2. I You can estimate it to 1/2, but it is exactly 1/2. Now, please remember, any time the numerator is half the value of a denominator, that fraction can be simplified to 1/2. Let me say that one more time. Anytime the numerator is half of the denominator, you can simplify that fraction to 1/2, okay? So now I'm going to simplify that to 1/2, estimate it to 1/2, and I have 1 plus 1/2. What is 1 plus 1/2? If you have one pizza and half a pizza, how many pieces do you have? Well, in this case, you have 1 and 1/2. By the end of this lesson, I might be a little hungry and need to go to Pizza Chef. We'll see. There we go. 1 and 1/2 is my estimate. Because what I did is I estimated 3/5 is closest to 1 out of these three values, right? And 1/2 is actually this exactly what 2/4 value is. So 1 plus 1/2 is 1.5. So the estimation of the addition problem of both of these fractions equals 1.5. All right, now let's try one more. We have 9/10. Well, I mean, you think about it, if a whole number, if the one, right, let's say you have a cookie, one whole cookie, and you divide it into 10 little parts, right, and then you have 9 little parts, do you think that's closer to 0 parts, half a part of the cookie, or one whole cookie? All right, right, if you have 9 out of 10 parts of that cookie, you have almost the entire cookie. So 9/10 is the closest. It's not 0, it's not 1/2, it's 1, right? So you can estimate 9/10 as being closest to 1 whole. Now we're subtracting here, and I just noticed I did something different here. I'm going to change the number right on the spot. Now I'm going to have 9/10 minus 1/4. Well, 1/4. Again, if you're trying to solve this problem, you could draw a number line. You could draw a rectangle or square or circle and draw 4 equal parts and then shade in one of those parts. Okay, and that would show you 1/4. Is that closer to 0? Is that closer to half? Is that closer to 1? Ah, this is a little tricky. Do you know why? Because 1/4 is immediately in between 0 and 1/2. It's exactly in between. Now, if you think of a 5 being exactly in between 0 and 10, when we're rounding, what do? Do we go up when we round, and when we're estimating, or do we go down? If it's right in the middle, 5, we round up, correct. So this 1/4 that I have, there it is, this 1/4 that I have, it's directly in between 0 and 1/2. So I am going to round up and call it closer to 1/2. All right. So I have 1 minus 1/2. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh my goodness, that sounds a little difficult. Well, think of it this way. Again, we'll go back to the Pizza Chef pizza, or Charlie Max, or wherever you prefer to, like Domino's, Pizza Hut, wherever you like to get pizza. All right, if you think about pizza, if you think you have one pizza, and then you get rid of half of it, how much do you have left? Correct. All right, so 1 minus 1/2 equals 1/2. Okay? So I hope you understand the objective today. You're going to have some problems with the number line. And what it's just asking you is what value is that fraction in between, and then which value is it closest to? So with our 5/8 example, it was closest to the value of 1/2. Then you're going to take that knowledge and you're going to bring it down to these estimating sums and differences, and you're going to estimate both fractions in the problem and then solve the problem. Okay? If you estimate correctly, it should be pretty easy to either add or subtract those numbers and fractions. Okay? All right. I hope this makes sense. I hope you enjoy. I'm a little hungry now. Make a great day. Make a great math day. What I want you to do is work on 9-2 reteach. And the reason why I'm having you do reteach is because I really want you to read the reteach section at the top of the page before you work on your problems, okay? All right. See you later.